Hi guys, Sandra here from Createinspain with a little tip for you today that you might find handy. Right, this is my original scan and cut mat for my SDX. I have made other mats for it, but so far I have been using this one. And I wanted to see how long it was going to last. Now, I had the machine in July last year. It is now the beginning of April. And I have noticed recently that my mat is causing me some issues. And the main problem, I'll just take the cover off so perhaps you won't get so much glare. The main problem I am finding is that the other day my mat went in as it did normally and it decided to skew. And the reason it decided to skew is because one of the corners was slightly raised. This, as far as I'm concerned, is a mat quality problem. I've used other machines. I have not had a problem with this in the past with other mats. This is because this type of mat is so flimsy. If this was stiffer, you wouldn't have the problem, because it can go underneath, but then if the wheels underneath, when the mat is going backwards and forwards, catch very slightly on this, it pulls it up. And that is what is causing the corners of your mat, most probably, to get a little bit creased or bent. And you can try and flatten it out, but you're eventually fighting a losing battle. However, that's not the main issue that I wanted to mention today. I do an awful lot of cutting, some of which you see on videos, other stuff which I do you don't get to see on videos. But I do an awful lot of cutting. I use my machine pretty much every day. And what I found is that with a fair amount of use, the mat itself on the cutting area is starting to buckle. Now on this particular side, it's a little buckled. On that side, it's flat at the moment. But yesterday, it was considerably more buckled than it is today. So what did I do to try and rectify this? Now, my opinion on why it buckles is simply the amount of use it gets. Because if you think about it, if you were to take a piece of paper, and let me demonstrate. Let me just fold a piece of paper a couple of times and get one of these tools just to simulate what happens. Okay, what is happening is that over time you are doing this. Now, you can see the effect here on paper, perhaps. Hang on, if I zoom in, and I zoom in close enough for you to see. Okay, hopefully you can see where I have gone over this area quite a few times. Now, I'm not using a heck of a lot of pressure. This is, just demonstration on paper. This is bubbling up and it's buckled. And that is what is happening to these mats. Not great. Thicker mats that I've had didn't have that problem. So I'm just going to put my cover over the top of here a second because I want to turn it over. So I decided to try something out yesterday and I'm going to see if this works long term. What I've got here is a piece of plastic which is for stencil making. They sell it in 12-inch squares, which is the right size because I have a 12-inch mat here. And all I've done on the back of this, I have put some dilute tack over and over. And I've put 2 strips of masking tape across the top. One to make sure that this does not catch when it goes underneath the rollers. And the other one just to make sure that, because I have a DX, it knows that there is some extra depth basically on here, because the depth is on there and it's on here. So hopefully that will help with the blade depth and it won't get quite so confused about that. But I'll probably have to just adjust my blade. That's not that difficult to do. once it's adjusted for this mat, it'll be fine as long as I don't change between this mat and another one. So having done this, put this surface here, it does two things. It does stiffen the mat very slightly. It is still flexible, but it is definitely stiffer. It holds on to the shape better. But it has actually flattened this down quite a lot. Now what was happening is, because this is buckled, when you're doing a cut, it sort of goes over a bubble if there's like an air bubble underneath it, and it doesn't contact properly. So that means you end up getting bad cuts. You know, you might find that it's cut most of the way through, but it's not cut all the way through all over the design, even though theoretically it should. But that's because your mat isn't going to be flat if it's got these bubbles in it. So this has definitely flattened it down a bit. I have put it through the machine a couple of times. I just set it to scan to see whether it would roll backwards and forwards. And there's no problem with that. It's going through the machine perfectly okay. So I'm going to be testing this out over the next few days, and I will give you an update on the next video I do to tell you whether it's actually worked or whether I've had to take it off the back. But I have a feeling that this will definitely help the problem. And if it does, it's a cheap solution, because you can get a packet of those 12-inch stencil squares for, I don't know, a packet of 12 or 20 or whatever it is, for about £12, probably about $12. And you know, you're only using one on the back, and you can still use it afterwards to cut a stencil if it doesn't get damaged. There's no reason why not. And yeah, I'm just going to see whether this works, because if it does, it will extend the life of my mat probably for another few months. Now, I know some people have had their mats for years and they still work. I don't know why that is, because theoretically, because I have an SDX machine, I'm not cutting into the mat excessively, I'm not using the mat badly, it's going into the machine properly, and there's only two variables. Either the machines themselves are not quite manufactured to exactly the same specification, or the mats aren't, you know. There's a limited number of things that can be causing the problem. There are far too many people who complain that the mats are getting ruined quickly for it just to be the person using the mat. And I do have extensive experience of using cutting machines, and until using this machine, I did not have a problem. So I think we can all guess what is to blame here, and it isn't me. Okay, that's it. Hopefully I'll be able to update you in a few days and tell you whether this has worked. Until then, thanks for watching. Take care now.